Today, I want to start with a question. You love my questions. And with any question, sometimes it can be our natural reaction to just kind of breeze on through and wait for me to give you the answer. That's how I got through most of high school. But what I want to do is give you, just as we start, we're going to warm up the brain, we're going to get things going here. I want to ask you a question. I want you to be genuine, and you don't have to answer it to me, but just keep it up here and answer it truthfully, because that way we're locked in, okay? We're locked in and we're ready to go. So here's the question. When was the last time you rested? And all the jokesters thinking, I just woke up from last night's sleep. Yeah, me too, right? Nice try. But this is what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about sleep rest. I'm not talking about a rest that you were basically forced to do because you ran out of gas or you were so sick that you couldn't get out of bed. But I'm talking a time that you deliberately and intentionally chose to rest. Think about it. See, some people are looking at me and smiling, but I'm hoping you're thinking about it. And you're actually thinking, because I wanted to give you about 10 seconds to think about that, but it might not have came right away. I know that when I was writing this message and I was planning this out, I had a hard time thinking of it myself. That wasn't until like the week went on, and I believe it was Wednesday or Thursday. We just finished, my wife and I and my extended family, they helped us build a patio. And so we've been enjoying that. So her and I have been going out and sitting out there. And then the twins will wake up 2 minutes later and we'll run in and help. The other night we went out to eat and it rained 2 minutes after we sat down. But we made an intentional decision to rest. And it doesn't happen very often. Like before that, I couldn't think of the last time that I actually did that. And maybe you struggled to think of a time as well. And if you did, it's okay. You're in good company. I could tell you the last time I sat down, obviously. I could tell you the last time that I worked so hard that I didn't want to do anything and I had to take a rest. Hint, it was building the patio that I was talking about. But that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about on purpose chosen rest, and that took me a minute. I'll be honest with you. I'm always honest with you, but I feel like that kind of hooks you in here, because now you know what I'm about to say is true. When I go on vacation, I'd like to, the family, we go on vacation. I always bring my laptop. I always do. And at this point, it's kind of out of habit, but I'm, as one of the associate pastors here, one of my things that I have to take care of is media. You kind of need a computer for that. So I have gotten really used to bringing my computer along with me, because wherever you go, we have Wi-Fi, and I got hotspot, I can take care of stuff, and if in a pinch, something happens where our live stream is going to be buggy, or I need to put something together, or it's like, it's a Sunday morning, and someone's like, we need this done. You can swoop right in. I haven't had to do that too often, but I always bring it just in case. The problem is, most times, I'm finding myself waking up early, going to bed late, or during the girls' nap or quiet time, I'm working on something. And I have a Google Task list of like 20 or 25 or 30 back burner projects that I've had, and I cycle through. And these are things that, I'd really like to do, but they don't take priority over the week-to-week tasks as a youth pastor. So like certain things have to be put on the back burner. And what better time to work on them than when I'm on vacation? And I don't have to do the other things that I'm usually having to do. As I say it, I can hear how wrong that is. And as you hear it, you can hear how wrong it is. But my gut tells me that a lot of us live like this. I might be on vacation, but I'm not truly resting. You might go through each and every one of your days the same way. You take a break, but you don't actually rest. And that's what I want to focus on this week and next week, next Sunday. We're going to look at the idea of rest and we're going to look at what the Bible has to say about it, because it might actually surprise you. It might not so much surprise you, but it might make you think, oh, I really need to start putting that into practice in my life. So here's our big idea for today. Rest wasn't our idea, it was God's. And he had it before we ever needed a reason to justify it. If you got your Bibles with you, I invite you to open to Genesis. I got the old paperback today. Trying this, so if you hear me flipping the pages, and I kind of want to hear those page flips today, hey? Let's fill that room with page flips today. But it might be a little bit slower because I'm going to try to turn there and I'm going to read out of here. Just something, interesting habit. But we're going to be starting right at the beginning, where God has just done a pretty miraculous thing, a pretty great thing. He's just created just everything. Okay? He's created everything that we know today. He's created the animals, he's created people, he's created trees, vegetation, earth, wind, and fire. Right? He's created all that stuff. And now we're reaching the part, the entire universe is in existence. He looks at everything he made and he calls it good. And chapter 2 begins like this. Chapter 2, verse 1 to 3. If you don't have your Bibles with you, it's going to be behind me and you can follow along. But it says this: "And so the heavens and the earth were completed, and all their heavenly lights. By the seventh day, God completed his work which he had done, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had done. Then God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because on it he rested from all his work which God had created and made." So something I just want to mention before we move on from that one, an interesting point to keep in mind, that we get to see right here the first time that something or someone is called holy. The first thing. And it wasn't a mountain. It wasn't a temple. It wasn't, anything like that. An object. It was a day. And a day of rest is the first thing that God separated, put aside, and said, this is sacred. This is different. Let's keep that in mind as we move forward. But think about the order of that. God creates humanity on day 6. He's just done a whole bunch of stuff. And then the very first day that Adam and Eve get to experience, he wasn't saying, all right, guys, get to work. They are existing, and then the first day, they get to experience a day of rest. A lot of times, and still I struggle with it, I always start my week on Monday, and then I end on Sunday. Monday on is work, and then Sunday, that's the day you go to church and you get to rest, and it's at the very end of the week. But what's interesting here is that God's putting it right at the beginning. It's kind of backwards and upside down from what we would understand. Because we're just so used to every time we have to do something, it's a reward that you get after you've worked hard enough. You get to rest. You get to retire once you've put in the work, and you get to rest. Wouldn't it be nice if you it wouldn't be good if you retired first, then worked, because then you'd have to work. Okay, some things are fine like the way they are. But in the story of creation, rest comes first. It's the starting line. And God tells us something about how he designed us to live in this way. In the very beginning, before sin, before struggle, before any of the brokenness that makes rest so complicated now, he put it and he built it right into how we should be living our lives. Let's fast forward a little bit, a chapter, as we go to Exodus, chapter 20. And in Exodus, this whole chapter is about God's people who had spent generations in slavery, being freed, being rescued, leaving Egypt, leaving their oppressors, leaving pretty much everything they had ever known. And God is giving them a new way to think, a new way to live. He gives them the 10 Commandments, right? To start off this new life, to start off this new journey, here are your 10 Commandments. And in the 10 Commandments, we really know, if you were to rattle off a couple, the obvious ones: do not murder, do not steal, do not lie. And in amongst all the other 9 of them, there's another one. We'll read about it in verse 8. Chapter 20, verse 8. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. For 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath of the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, you or your son or your daughter, your male slave or your female slave, or your cattle, or your resident who stays with you. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea and everything that is in them, and he rested on the seventh day. For that reason the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. So think about that for a second. Now, it's not only, Adam and Eve are created and hey, you guys can have the day off. It's not a nice kind of, here you go. It's a commandment. It's on the tablets. It's important. He's commanding rest. See, these people, these Israelites, they were a people who had just spent generations as slaves in Egypt. They were probably born into it. Parents, grandparents came and went, and then these people, all they knew was service. They didn't get the days off. They didn't get to rest. Their entire existence was built around producing something nonstop for someone else's benefit. Pyramids, statues, waiting on people hand and foot. And now God is telling this free people who is probably thinking like, this kind of life is crazy, so unusual to me. Like, these are the guys that would rather have went back to slavery than be out in the desert and be a little hungry, right? That's where they're coming from. When you're so used to the dysfunction, it can be very easy to go back to it. And function can seem foreign. So God had his hands full with these guys. We know. If you read this story, you know the story. But that was their existence. That's all they knew. That's all that they were. And now God's telling them in no uncertain terms that not only is rest allowed, it's required. You got to do it. You got to do it. And what he was communicating to them, what I think, and to us and as well, is your worth isn't the same as your output. A lot of times we get in the habit of, I'm a this, I'm a that. If you go to a lot of other places in the world, like outside of the North American area, if someone was to ask you, what do you do? They're going to tell you, oh, I like to fish, I like to read, I like to play soccer, I like to this. In North America, if you ask someone what you do, you say, oh, I'm a woodworker, I'm a teacher, I'm this, right? And that's not bad, but it shows you where our identity is. It is right locked into what you do. And this is exactly what God is trying to break from these guys' minds, is it's not what you do that makes you who you are, it's who I say you are. He's saying, you are mine. And I have built rest into the rhythm of how you're supposed to live. I have commanded it, do it. And there's an interesting contrast here if you look at the other religions of the time period. A lot of the religions, even the Egyptian gods, right? The Norse gods, the Greek gods, the Roman gods, all these mythical god figures that all these people worshipped, and they you know what they all have in common? They have a lot of movies made about them. No, they need to be served at all times. Someone always has to be manning the temple. Someone always has to be sacrificing something. Someone's always got to be doing something for their needs, for their desires and their wants. But not our God. Our God, the God of Israel, he is a different kind of God. That's why he's the big G God. These other ones are little g gods. He's the big G God. And our God gives his people the day off. It tells you something about who he is. He's not a God who needs to be served all the time, endlessly. He's a God that invites his people into rest. So if you have this difficulty grasping the idea of rest and you've struggled with this is for you. This is for me. And guess what? Jesus modeled it too. We know him. He modeled it as well. Flip way back to Mark in the New Testament, Mark chapter 6, verse 31. We are finding Jesus right in the thick of his ministry. Lots of stuff was going on. I think I'm busy. No, he had stuff going on. He had people coming to him, and he was having to heal people, or he was getting to heal people, but he was getting to preach to people, and he was getting to do miracles, and he had sent his disciples out into the world, and he said, "You guys go do some as well. Be my hands and feet. Go preach and go heal and cast out demons." And then they came back, and they were exhausted. They were tired. They've been going. They've been going for a while. Crowds were following them everywhere, all the time, endlessly. And in a time that everything was going crazy, Jesus tells them this in verse 31. And he said to them, "Come away by yourselves to a secluded place and rest a little while." And then if you read on, it actually has a little parenthesized part that says, "For there were many people coming and going, and they did not even have time to eat." Some of us know what that's like. You get a really busy day. Parents, moms, you guys know what it's like. At the end of the day, you go, "Did I eat lunch?" Right? It's a busy day at work, and your boss tells you, "Hey guys, we're actually going to work right through lunch. We got to get this stuff going. We got to get things supplied. We got to get things made." You go without your lunch. It's good to know that even the disciples were dealing with some of the problems that we deal with. And they did all right. But it's so practical, because Jesus doesn't say, like a mean supervisor, push through it. The stuff that we've got to do is too important for us to stop right now. Do you understand the importance of the word that is being spread? Do you understand the importance of the miracles that have to happen? You think you can just stop and eat? No. Jesus doesn't do that. He looks at his exhausted disciples, and he tells them, "Come away and let's rest. Let's take a break." Because you can't do anything great when you're exhausted. You can't do anything great when you're burnt out, when you're burned the candle at both ends. Take a break. And we see this over and over. Jesus himself withdrawing to quiet places to pray and to rest, even in the height of his ministries, when the needs around him were so enormous. Jesus took naps. Jesus took breaks. And if Jesus, the Son of God, takes breaks, if he has value in resting, then why do we think we don't? Why do we think we shouldn't be resting? Because I don't know about you, but I'm not as good as Jesus. He's pretty good, and he rests. So maybe we should too, eh? Maybe we should take all the teachings, of course, but then also look at the way he lived his life, and you say, "Hey, Jesus wept. Must mean it's okay to cry sometimes. Jesus ate. It's okay to eat. Jesus took naps." If you're in a boat and the boat's about to sink, might not be the best time to take a nap. Jesus did, but that shows you how committed he was to the bit. There's one more verse I want to put along with all this later, going back into Exodus. God is talking to Moses. He's telling him something remarkable, and he says in verse 14, chapter 33, he says, "My presence shall go with you, and I will give you rest." So the cool thing here is not only, rest isn't this thing that we slot out time for, but it's making time to be close to God. It's making time to be close to him, drawing closer to him. And when we are close to him, he will give you rest. You can try to do it on your own. You can try to just take some breaks, and that's fine. But when we draw close to God, he gives us true rest and true peace. So we've looked at all this. Rest is built into creation, commanded by God, modeled by Jesus. So why is it so hard? Why do I find it so difficult to just stop? You know? Why is it so hard for me to just put stuff down? Why can't I leave my laptop at home when I go on vacation? Why can't I wake up and just look at the sunrise instead of having to type away and get things done? I think there's a few reasons. I don't think there's one answer solves everything. But I think there's a few reasons, and I want to name them because a lot of us are carrying more than we realize, and we're all in a lot of different spots. We're all in a lot of different points in our lives, a lot of different seasons. That's the awesome thing about this church. We have young kids all the way up to folks who are retiring and have been retired, and everybody in between. What a great demographic. What a great thing to have. What a healthy thing to have. But how are we all dealing with the exact same issues? You know, like how is it that I'm having the same issues as maybe a teenager and as someone who is 75 years old? How is it, there's got to be a common denominator. And there's a couple things here. Well, first, I'd say a lot of us, busyness has become something that we wear like a badge of honor. You know, you got a gold sticker. You know why? Because I'm busy. Okay, here's another hypothetical thing you can think about. The last time somebody came up to you and asked you, how are you doing? Did you say, I heard it, did you say, so busy? You know, or did you say good, and you explained how everything was going good? Or did you say, busy, burning the candle at both ends, just trying to keep my head above water. You know how it is. And you say it with almost a little bit of pride because now this person knows I'm a big deal. I got stuff going on. My company can't function without me. My mental health is decreasing and declining rapidly, but the stockholder value is shooting up, and that's great, and that's all my late nights at work. The automatic answer is busy. And we're proud of it. We feel like it makes us important. When I was a kid, I had completely forgotten about this until I was writing this message. When I was in elementary school, up through high school, more so in high school, because that's when the bedtimes really didn't matter. I remember going to school and my school friends would, something would happen and they would just be comparing and going back and forth and saying and bragging, I only got 4 hours of sleep last night. Oh, I only got 3. Kid in the back, you guys are sleeping? I'm hopped up on caffeine. The kid's in like grade 9 and he's already down in coffee. He's like nobody's business, And then I'd go to youth conferences and youth camps. And the speakers, the hosts, the game people would come up and they'd be like, all right, everybody, who here stayed up and only got 5 hours of sleep? And half the hands would shoot up. Exactly. There'd be way more hands though. And they would go down 4, 3, 2, 1. All the leaders and all the pastors are just like, I wish I got 8. I wish I got 4. I'm not proud of it. And then you get down, who got 30 minutes of sleep? Who got none? It's that same kid in the back. I got 0 sleep, and he's still blinking one eye at a time, just full of coffee. Why are these youth pastors and leaders letting these kids drink coffee? It's crazy. But from such a young age, we're trying to out-insomnia everyone, and it's not healthy, but it's a badge of honor that we think is going to make us look cool, or whatever, right? We got it so backwards. And I really hope that my friends from school aren't still bragging about how little sleep they're getting these days. I hope they figured it out. I know most of them should be because a lot of them have kids now. That'll stop you from bragging about staying up late. There we go. I like this side. I like you. I like all of you. This section's my favorite today. For the parents in the room, my fellow parents, you know what can feel selfish? Rest. Rest can feel selfish because you're thinking, if I'm not doing whatever, the house isn't getting cleaned, the kids aren't getting where they need to be, I need to be doing something. Can I tell you, you deserve rest. And that's just not me saying it so that I can rest. But I see the crazy work that my wife does, you know? You deserve rest. We're not the only ones in the thick of this child upbringing thing. You deserve rest too. And it doesn't matter how old your kids are. You deserve rest. For those of you providing for your family, you're working hard, carrying the financial responsibility, you feel like if you stop, you're failing. Like if you're not constantly moving forward, you're sliding back. Something's going to fall apart. And Psalms actually talks right to this. Psalm 127. Psalm 127, verse 2. It is futile, or futile, I forget, whatever. It is futile for you to rise up early, to stay up late, to eat the bread of painful labor. This is how he gives to his beloved sleep. So it's challenging us and saying, hey, this rise and grind mentality that a lot of people have, you know, wake up, work, go to sleep, or wake up, work, die. Don't do that. There's more to life than that. Sometimes we think we're all that's holding everything together. We're not. And for my teens and young adults, your pressure looks different, but it's real. It's real. It's very real. Comparison never turns off. Social media never turns off. There's a constant sense that if I'm not doing something, achieving something, or posting something, all these other people who are achieving something and posting something, they're buying houses, they're buying cars, they're having families, they're having kids, they're getting their dream job, they're getting the promotion, they're doing it right, so what am I doing wrong? And when that's what we allow to just consume us, you feel like you're falling behind all the time. Can I tell you something real quick? It's all fake. They're just showing you the best parts of themselves. That's all ages. Everything you see on social media, though it might not be fake, it's just their best. And now you're comparing their best with your worst. Who do you think is going to be disappointed, right? And for those of you who are retired, or you're in a season of not working as much or in a way that you used to, restlessness can show up differently. When your sense of purpose, again, like the Israelites, has been tied to producing something, and all of a sudden you're done, you go, what am I supposed to be doing? What do you mean I'm allowed to rest? I should be doing something. Now, that's not to say don't keep busy during retirement. Like, you can do stuff, but don't forget to rest. Don't forget you put in the work. You can take a rest. Different seasons of life, different pressures, but underneath it all is the same lie. Somewhere we started treating rest like laziness. We think it's laziness. We think that if I rest for a moment, I'm doing something wrong, that it's something I have to apologize for, but God tells us that it's something completely different. He calls it trust. It is trusting that if I let myself rest, the world keeps spinning for a little bit. If I have some rest, the kids will be okay for a little bit. Don't just abandon your kids for the whole day, but, take a little bit of time. Let them play. They'll be good. If I take some rest, the job is still there. God's plan doesn't depend on you not stopping. That's not weakness. That's faith in action. That's trusting God that if I take a break like you commanded, everything is going to be okay. He said something similar to his people in Psalm 46. Right in the middle of a psalm about chaos and upheaval, and these guys, again, God's chosen people. These guys, they are really good at getting themselves into issues, and they're looking everywhere they can to find the answers except the right place. They're looking to their neighbors. They're looking within. They're looking without. And the psalm is speaking to that, saying, stop striving and know that I am God. It's not a gentle suggestion. It's a command. Aimed straight at everyone who thinks that they're holding everything together on their own. When I first started here at KCC as the interim youth and worship pastor, I was filling in for Pastor Katie, and while she was off on mat leave, and then they liked me so much they couldn't get rid of me. I just stuck around. Maybe they forgot that I was hired. No, but they brought me on, and it was a time when I'd actually trusted God. I tell my youth students this a lot of times. I trusted God because I had another position kind of lined up for somewhat full-time ministry-ish. I say ish because, I don't know. I didn't know what was going to happen. But I was also working at Chrysler, and that's pretty steady. But 3 years of midnights, and I was like, you know what? I'm kind of ready for my next thing. And then my other pastor offered me, and he said, would you be interested to come on full-time? And I said, no. Oops. Because I was like, this is not where I'm meant to be right now. This is not where I was meant to be. I did the classic youth pastor thing. I was there for 6 months and I was gone, right? And then Chrysler came up, and after I had quit that, I quit Chrysler. And I'm like, ooh, I wonder what's next. And it was a little while, and then Pastor Katie, she texts me and says, hey, would you be interested in, and I didn't know, this was like before I knew that they were going to be having Macy, my niece. I didn't know this was in the works. She texted me, she's like, would you be interested in filling in youth and worship? Just hold the fort down till I get back. Let me enjoy my time with my child. And I said, I actually have no other plans. Let's do it. So I come here in the wonderful year of 2020. It'll be 6 years this September-ish. And I remember this was like right when the lockdowns were starting and everything was going good. What a time that was. But I had all these hopes and these dreams for the ministry. And I still do. But I had all these ideas. I was bringing in what I had known from my youth group when I went to youth. And I was a youth leader in the last church I was at. And I went, this is what we're going to do here. I had all these plans and these ideas and trying to make things happen. And what actually ended up happening was I was working on something all the time. And it was normal to me. Now I was 22 at the time, newlywed, and I'm just thinking like, I got nothing. We got our own house. We're sitting here. Lauren's watching TV. I could be playing video games, or I can work. So I did. I worked on stuff. If I wasn't working on a schedule or a song arrangement or a social media post or some sort of, youth message, if I wasn't working on something on my back burner list, I felt like I was backsliding. Felt like I was losing ground. That went on for a while. But I assumed at that time existed to be filled. What else is it for? What else should I be doing? I'd be working on things all day at the office, and I'd bring them home with me, and I'd work on them on the couch. Sometimes I'd be getting stuff ready for a Sunday service. I'd be getting stuff ready on Saturday night, and there was a couple times when it bled into Sunday morning. I didn't know how to manage my time. I didn't know what to say no to. I was doing all the things, and I thought all these plates that I was balancing and all the balls that I was juggling, I thought all of them had to stay up into the air, and that meant just go, go, go all the time. And it's now that I'm looking back and I realize that I was afraid to stop working because I thought I would fall behind. At the time, I thought it's what I was supposed to be doing. The ministries, if they're going to succeed, I got to be getting the next things ready. But I was afraid of falling behind. And maybe that's you too. When I mentioned those things, maybe you're afraid of falling behind. I thought that there weren't enough hours in the work week to do it all, and that I had to sacrifice my weekends. And it wasn't until our first daughter came along, Harper, that I realized how unsustainable this is. And thank goodness I figured it out, because 2 more showed up, and I would have figured it out real quick. And it's a process of adjusting how I did things to make sure that when I go home, it's family time. And that when I work on church stuff, that I enjoy it. Because this is what I enjoy. I could go do, X, Y, and Z and do whatever I need to do. But I like doing this because it's what I want to do. I love it. I do. So why do we do this? Why do we avoid the rest? I'm not going to... I really hope you don't go home and say, Pastor Colt said that I have to take a week off. Call your boss and tell him I said that. I am not going to support that. They call me saying, what's this all about? I did not write you a doctor's note. Man. I'm not writing your schools either. All the kids thinking. That's not what I'm saying. And I'm not saying you have to rewrite and restructure your whole schedule. You figure it all out and you say, I got to get all this rest in here and I got to do it perfectly. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying you got to get perfect. I'm saying the point is to start. And it's been 6 years for me, right? And I'm still working on it. I was up a little early working on this one as well. And as I'm writing it, I'm thinking, this is such a bad example. It's not going to happen overnight. So here's what I want to invite you to do this week. Here's my little challenge for you. Okay? Pick one small thing, just one. Make it manageable. Maybe it's a meal this week where your phone, it's not just face down on the table, but I'm walking. It's over here in the other room, face down, off. And you're fully present with your family for a meal. Rest. That's what rest can look like. Maybe it's 1 hour of completely unstructured time. Some of you hate that. Some of you just hate that sound right there. You're like, what do you mean? I have to know what I'm doing. No agenda, no plan. If you've got kids, it's a great time to just do this together. Play with them for an hour. Just be a family. Whatever happens. Don't even set a timer. If it goes over, it goes over. Like me this morning. I'm almost done, I swear. Or maybe it's one evening, I'm bad for this, where you don't look at your to-do list for the week ahead. It's nighttime. What are you going to do? You're going to worry about these things you got to do. Guess what? You're going to worry about them tomorrow. So just relax. Take it easy. Let the to-do list wait until tomorrow. It's going to be there when you get there. Whatever it is, make it small enough that you actually do it, that you actually commit to it. Because you don't need to get rest perfect this week. You just need to start. Don't perfect it. Just start. The prophet Isaiah put it this way. Again, he was speaking on God's behalf to a people. These guys, again, they were looking everywhere except for him for their strength. In Isaiah 30:15. In repentance and rest, you will be saved. In quietness and trust is your strength. Strength doesn't always look like putting in more effort, like the world tells us. It's not always about going longer and faster and, pumping more iron, heavier weights, your heavier workload. Sometimes it looks like rest. So, as we close, I want us to do something a little different, maybe a little uncomfortable. Not too uncomfortable. But I want to invite you to sit for a moment. We're already there. But here's what I want us to leave with, kind of a mindset. If we look at Psalm 4, verse 8, how David puts it. Psalm 4, verse 8. In peace I will both lie down and sleep, for you alone, Lord, have me dwell in safety. And that's the posture I want you to leave with this morning. The idea of resting and dwelling, lying down and sleeping. Allow God to give you that calmness, that peace. So before we go today, I want us to just sit for a moment. 30 seconds. And I'm going to be looking at the clock. I'm going to give you 30 seconds, and here's what I want you to do. Do not think about the one thing you're going to change this week. Do not think about what you're having for lunch, because guess what? You're going to talk about that in the car when you leave here. You're going to talk about all this stuff when you leave here, but we have 30 seconds just to sit and rest. If you're a guy, it'll be really easy to think about nothing. But everyone, challenge yourself just for 30 seconds. Realize that it's okay to be still. Rest is allowed. It was God's idea before we ever struggled with it. He built it into creation. He commanded it for his people, and Jesus modeled it in the middle of his busiest season of his ministry, which was busier than whatever we're doing right now. And if it mattered enough for all of that, it matters to you too. So, rest. Lord, I thank you that rest was your idea, your design. And Lord, forgive us. Forgive me of viewing rest as laziness, as viewing rest as falling behind. Lord, from this day forward, let me fully grasp the weight of true rest, of biblical rest. It may be uncomfortable, like 30 seconds of silence. The first time is always uncomfortable. You're not used to it yet. You're not used to just being still. We're not used to not having something going all the time. But Lord, let us this week moving forward, let us begin to prioritize rest how you have it made for us. And let it rejuvenate us. Let it refill us. Let it just wash over us. Just rest this week, Lord. Let us be restful. Let us be peaceful. Let us for 1 week just try it out. And remember that if I take a break here, this world keeps on spinning. Give us the strength to do that, Lord. We thank you for what you have made rest. We value it, Lord. Thank you for modeling it so well. Lord, I pray that every person in this room challenges themselves this week. Let us rest. In your name, amen.